Spain has been forced to ask the EU for help after being overwhelmed by a fresh migrant wave just weeks after announcing it would legalise 500,000 asylum seekers. The announcement sparked a fresh wave of migration. Now the country is expected to absorb up to 1.3 million asylum seekers. Panicked, the government has asked the EU to facilitate the transfer of migrants from the Canary Islands. The Economy Minister Carlos Cuerpo told Parliament last week he'd asked the Commission for money to stop the, quote, over-concentration of the migrant population in the region. The move comes despite uproar at Spain's unilateral action to give legal status to its migrants and Brussels' clear objection. States within the EU Schengen open border region have no say in the decision, though will not be able to stop those migrants coming to their countries. When the move was announced, queues of migrant men could be seen at consulates seeking their legal documents. This prompted outrage in European capitals, who feared a fresh migrant wave similar to that seen in 2015, when Angela Merkel invited migrants to come to Germany. Furious EU officials briefed the media. This is not in the spirit of European migration and undermines Europe's attempt to reduce immigration and secure its borders. Swedish MEP Thomas Tobé said at the time the Spanish decision completely undermines free movement within Europe.
President, Commissioner, giving amnesty to 500,000 irregular migrants is a direct challenge to the Schengen area. It undermines our common efforts to strengthen our borders and tackle illegal migration. After years of political deadlock, we agreed on the Migration Pact to restore order and prevent fragmentation. Now at European level, we are taking the next steps. Parts of the S&D Group are with us, but most of the S&D Group rejects the proposals. I do hope that you see this reality and come back to the work on the Migration Pact. And it's also very clear that we see now Prime Minister Sanchez. He seems to live in an alternative reality where political survival comes first. Let us be clear. This is not about solidarity. It is a political strategy to please the left-wing allies and stay in power. That is what this is about. And at the same time, his government expects, through the Migration Pact, that other member states should, through the solidarity mechanism, give solidarity. This is, frankly speaking, unacceptable. And we can also see that the Spanish parliament is totally sidelined. And this actually goes to a more violent pattern that we have seen. Amnesty for separatists, corruption scandals, and also weakening of institutions. But this time the consequences go far beyond Spain. I think it is important to understand that when one member state acts alone, Europe is put at risk. So I think it's important that Mr. Sanchez, he needs to face the reality. Don't play with Europe. The EPP group will not stand for it. Thank you.
Hungarian MEP Domitor Saba yesterday slammed the socialist Spanish government, saying the huge numbers were entirely predictable and the decision to legalise his migrants had no democratic basis.
What we got here is liberal migration policy at its finest. The Spanish government wants to legalise hundreds of thousands of illegal migrants without any parliamentary confirmation. They do not even know exactly how many migrants they would legalise. Possibly 500,000 or more. That means they legalise the methods of those who came illegally. This is your rule of law in practice. At the same time, the ruling coalition in Brussels punishes Hungary for defending its borders and rejecting the Migration Pact. €1 million per day. That is the sum of the fine for keeping Hungary safe and keeping the trouble out of our country. How absurd. What the Spanish government does is an open-ended invitation to many more millions. And the EPP coalition here wants to reallocate these millions with the Migration Pact. I am sure that Spanish people did not ask for this. Neither did Hungarians. Their response will reach you. You are destroying the best place on earth called Europe. Call us anything, but don't even think that we will watch this silently.
Thank you. The next speaker is Mario.
Charlie Weemers, MEP, told GB News in January such chaos would prompt Northern European countries to close their borders, and some could even make their way to the UK.
Your country, Sweden, has seemed to admitted to itself that it's had a problem with the mass migration that it's allowed in over the last 10 years. It's starting to walk that back. Despite this glaringly obvious bad example of mass migration policy, Spain has just now decided 10 years later that it's going to throw open its doors. We've seen pictures of queues, thousands of third world migrant men queuing up to get regularised migration status. What's your reaction to that?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. What you say is absolutely correct. Sweden has started to learn from its past mistakes going back 40 years when we replaced labor migration with asylum migration. But in the case of Spain, it seems like they're either unwilling to learn or just being cynical about the whole thing. And now Spain wants to legalize 500,000 illegal migrants. And we know from the past that around half of them will eventually move outside the territory of Spain, further up north to countries such as Sweden, Germany, but potentially also the UK through the boats. So this is a problem for the whole of Europe. And why are they doing this? Well, the writer Gad Saad, he talks about suicidal empathy, and I think that's part of the explanation that there is a certain part of the political class that just don't care about the consequences of their own decisions. That's one thing, but there is another part that is outright okophobic, that really has a self-disdain, and no one put it better than the leader of one of the leaders of the Spanish left-wing Socialist Party, former communists, if I'm not mistaken. She said that she wants to replace right-wing voters with immigrants. So it seems to be an electoral calculus behind this move as well. And in France, I mean, to point out that theory might not be unsubstantiated. Besides her statement, in France there is this expression Islamo-gauchisme, Islamo-leftism. But this might come back and bite them in the end. And I'm not only thinking about how Marxists helped the Ayatollahs to get into power in Iran, but I'm thinking about your own country, the UK, where at first immigrant groups were quite prevalent within the Labour Party, but now they are forming their own competing alternatives to the Labour Party in many councils, many elections, also to the House of Commons. So it's a very short-sighted political strategy of the left, and it's extremely damaging for the society, but also for Europe as a whole. And not only would I be worried if I care about social cohesion and a functioning society, I would also be worried if I cared about rule of law and free movement within Europe, because what will happen, obviously, is that countries with center-right governments will impose internal border controls, in the case of Sweden, towards Germany, Denmark. Germany will probably impose it southwards towards France, and France will probably think about the border with Spain. So this is a very, very damaging move